Hey there, I'm Zach Larson, and this is Living Words Press. Today, we're going to talk about how Brandon Sanderson let me down. And he let you down too. He let his fans down. It's been a little while since I posted this, but I wanted to go back to this and make a video about it. I'm just going to read this first paragraph here, because it sets things up. Whether it's the door of Elantris, breath for windbreaker, warbreaker, as it were, or the spores of the verdant sea, I have found myself lost in the fantasy worlds of Brandon Sanderson for nearly 15 years. Steelheart scratched my ever-present need for superheroes and villains. Mistborn taught me about hard magic systems in a harsh world of elitism and slavery. The Way of Kings made me cheer for a depressed bridgeman and laugh at Spren. I even owe most of my own outlook on writing and magic systems to my love of Sanderson's worlds. He is a nerd that grew up to influence people with his words, just as I have always wanted to do. He belongs to my own faith and even lives in the same area of the country as I do. But now all I can think about is how angry I am. So ultimately, I don't know if you know the controversy surrounding his new book, Wind and Truth, but it is very woke, to say the least. He has disappointed fans because he is celebrating a gay romance and celebrating non-binary characters, not just putting them in, but celebrating them in the book. Now, here's the caveat. I have not read it. I do not plan to read it. I've looked over multiple reviews, and one of my good friends is actually reading the book, and I've been discussing it with him. He's told me multiple times that he's listening to the audio, and he has to skip through large sections, and not just sections that are LGBTQ plus content, which he does have to skip through because there's been a bunch of those, but he also said that there's so many sections in this book that are just painful to read because they're just so slow and boring. And honestly, I feel like this happened because Brandon is trying to shoehorn in a bunch of the woke stuff, and I just think that has downgraded the rest of his writing. And here's an example of one of his recent posts. And you can find this on his website. I have it linked on the Substack. My current stance is one of unequivocal support for LGBTQ plus rights. I support gay marriage. I support trans rights, the rights of non-binary people, and I support the rights of trans people to affirm their own identity with love and support. I support anti-discrimination legislation, and have voted consistently along these lines for the last 15 years. I am marking the posting of this FAQ item with the encouragement of several of my LGBTQ plus fans, with a sizable donation to the Utah Pride Center and another to the OUT Foundation. So he is now in full support of these movements, and it's showing up in his fiction. And it just disappoints me because he's one of my favorite authors, or he used to be at least. But ultimately, it's not even that he's now currently supporting it that is the reason why I'm angry. That's not necessarily it, which it's part of the reason, but it's not the full reason. Ultimately, it's this section here, a growing agenda. And I have a caveat later. I don't think that Brandon is a devious man. Everybody that knows him, as far as I've heard, talks about him as a very kind person. And I think that's why he's been so susceptible to these movements. But honestly, I'm a little bit upset at myself because I should have seen his growing agenda sooner. Because LGBTQ stuff started showing up in his books long before Wind and Truth. And it seems devious. I don't think he is devious, but the way it happened just seems like a very calculated plan. Because he is a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. He still is. But he is supposed to be against celebrating that kind of stuff. We are not against people. We do not hate members of the LGBTQ plus community. We don't. We love all of God's children. But we cannot support sin. And he is not supposed to be supporting sin. And now he is. But ultimately, like I said, I should have known. Because there were bits of it showing up long before this. I have some books listed here. The Way of Kings, even the very first one of the Stormlight Archive, or The Wind and Truth, the new book that's out that I've been talking about, that one's the 5th book. But even the first one had hints of LGBT content. The Mistborn series, the Wax and Wane side of it, that had a bunch of it. There is a lesbian couple in that series, and they are definitely celebrated in minor ways. And that series just has lots of kind of debauchery that ultimately I should have seen sooner and realized, because he was writing to certain characters, and I get it, but he had some very questionable content in those books. Even though I still love those books, but they definitely skew towards an older audience because they have questionable content. They have immorality in those books, and it's disappointing. Also, the Skyward series, which is another one that I still really, really like, but that one was, I think, the first one to really, really celebrate the LGBTQ stuff, because there were characters that were not straight, and they were definitely celebrated in the book, highly celebrated. And I should have seen it before. I should have seen it sooner. And yet I still like these books. I still own all the ones that I've listed here, other than Wind and Truth, which I'm not going to buy, but I still own all of these books, and I'll probably still read them again someday, because they are still pretty good, but they're definitely trending downward because of this content that was put in. And so just the way it was done, it seems devious. I don't think he's devious, but it just seems like a calculated plan. And I think he was influenced, is what it is. He was influenced by the people that were put into his life from the publishing sector that are leftist and extremely left-wing. People on his podcasts, his old podcast, writing excuses that were very left-wing. And I just think that he got influenced. And I think it's not his plan, but it's the plan of the adversary. And it's just sad. But I'm also just very upset because he's been my writing idol for a long time. I love his older books. They're just so good. I love the way he sets up a good twist. I love the way he sets up the worlds, the magic systems. The way I plan things now are highly, for my books, are highly based on my reading of him and my listening to his podcasts and his advice. And so he's been my idol, and he was just this really cool writing nerd that likes cool nerdy things, that got a big following and was able to influence people with his writing. And a lot of his writing is still really top quality and just really good, and a lot of it still does have really good values. But ultimately, going back to Matthew 24:24, that even the elect will be deceived if it were possible. Brandon, to me, has been one of the elect, at least in my eyes, but he's been deceived. And here's some proof of that. In 2007, this is actually what he posted. He was more in line with what I believe and what the church believes. But this is his post. Another note to those who might be reading this who are themselves gay. No, I don't believe that homosexuality can, in many cases at least, be treated and cured. I do believe, however, that impulses of attraction between people of the same gender are something that can and should be resisted, in the same way that my impulses of attraction toward women who are not my wife can and should be resisted. You probably believe differently. So, and that, I think, is 100% true. That is right. This world, everything about this world is broken. Every single thing could be broken about our lives, about ourselves, about our characters, about our desires. It's all broken. We live in a broken state. And so, of course, desires and sexual attraction can also be broken. And there's not a way to treat some of it. Some of us don't have the right limbs or the right bodies or eyesight, and some of the things just cannot change. I wholeheartedly agree with that. And we don't hate people that are different. I don't. I generally just want us all to get along and kind of just, we can do our own thing. But there is sin, and I do not like sin, and he's right. We all have impulses and desires that we have to resist. We can't just go out and eat whatever we want for as long as we want all the time and expect not to have health consequences. That is a law. We can't just do whatever we want. We can't act on every single emotion, or else we would be a really horrible person. Nobody would want to be around us. And this is the same. It's the same kind of attraction impulses that we have to resist, and we have to be in the right relationships with the opposite gender, and it all works out the same. His statement, I think, is just great. And so I wonder how he went from we can control our worldly desires to let's celebrate a gay kiss in his new book, because that's what happens. And ultimately, I know, it's like I said before, he's been influenced by the people that have been put into his life that are leftist from the publishing industry. And it's just sad to see. But we have to hold to absolute truths. There is an absolute truth, and God has given it to us, and we have to hold to that. But also, my other really big problem, I'm a picky reader. I don't like smut. I don't like a lot of swearing. I want a good book. Some swearing is okay. I don't mind a gritty read either. But I don't want a lot of sexual content. And I don't want a ton of ridiculous swearing. I think it's pointless in my fiction. That's not what I go to my fiction for. And maybe that makes me a prude, but I'm okay with that. And so I'm really picky. And it takes me a long time. And now that I've written 4 books, it takes me even longer to find a book, because I have to be really, really selective, or else my writer brain turns on and I start, instead of enjoying it, I start analyzing it. And so it's really hard for me to find a good book. But before, I've always been able to just know that books by Brandon Sanderson were my safe place. I could just pick those up, I could read them, I would know that they were good, super interesting, and that pretty much they would have pretty high morals for the most part. But I can't do that anymore. And so now it's going to take me so long to find good books. Like, I've gone back to some of the classics, and I never used to really read too many classics, but I'm listening to Dracula right now because I'm like, I don't know what else to do. And it's kind of crazy that this old book from the 1800s has higher morals than Brandon's new books, because in the book it looks at God, and they look to God and defeating evil and gender roles, but it also defies gender roles in the right ways. I never realized how good Dracula was. Dracula is a really good book, but even so, it's still really hard for me to find books. I was listening to a series not too long ago, because I'm trying to find a new series because I don't know what else to do, and new authors, and the writing was really good, and I really liked the concept, but that author brought in too much of the LGBTQ stuff too, and just went too far, so, and smut, and so, I don't know, it's just sad. It's really hard for me to find a book, so that's one of my biggest problems. I mean, my biggest problem is that he's defying his faith, but this is why I am so upset, because otherwise it would just be, well, he can do him. But it's that I have trusted him and depended on him for a good read for a long time. And now that only happens if I go back and read the previous books again, instead of finding a new book from him, because now I don't trust him, and I can't trust anything else he writes. And that's just really upsetting, because I love good books. And so that brings me to, I guess, the good thing that came from all of this, at least for me, is that I've decided I have to keep writing. I've been in a slump for a while. I kind of was writing a book for my son a little bit, but mostly I just was avoiding writing, because even though I love it, it was just, why bother? Why bother writing when nothing's going to happen from it because it's so hard to get seen right now. Which is part of the reason I'm doing these videos and my Substack is, yes, I want to get more positive content out there. I've felt like God wants me to do that. And so that's the big reason. But also, I don't know any other way to get my books seen. But I have decided I have to keep writing. Because at least if I'm writing the type of books that I want to read, then I know that somebody is. Because I'm doing it. Or at least trying to. And so that's ultimately my thoughts on this. I'm just so disappointed in Brandon. He was my writing idol, and his old books I would say still are, and I'm not going to shill any of his new books. I'm not going to push those, and I'm not going to support them. He has readers. There are a lot of people online. I'm sure that if you're in this video, you've seen other people talking about his book, Wind and Truth, and being upset about it and saying that they're leaving. If you look at lots of the comments on those videos and some comments on the book, you'll see that. And so he has lost a substantial portion of his fan base. Not only because of the LGBTQ stuff in his book, but also because it's just not good, as far as I've heard. And I've seen snippets of it, and it's not good. The writing's not good. It's not up to par. He failed on this one. And so, but he still has a big following. There's still a lot of people that bought the book and gave him 4 stars. If you look on Amazon, there's tons of reviews. He's not hurting from it that much, but I hope that it at least makes him think, because he knew that this book would be the book to lose him fans if he was going to lose fans, and he was right. He was right. He has lost a lot of fans. He's lost me, definitely, as a fan for his newer stuff, but I mean, I'm still, I guess, going to be supporting him in a way, because one of my favorite books of all time came from his Kickstarter, and it's Tress of the Emerald Sea. If you haven't read that, it's amazing. It's The Princess Bride meets pirates meets a fantasy setting unlike any other, and it's just so good. And so I have to keep pushing the books that I like that, like Steelheart, and some of the others. The Arithmetist is really good, and the Mistborn series and the Early Way of Kings are really good too. Like, he has some good old stuff, but I won't be a fan for the new stuff. But I wish him well. I just can't support him anymore. So, if you are like me and you want to have a good read and one that is Christian and has good values, then consider supporting my books. And the one I'm going to shill to you right now is God Save the Children. This is the one I talked about. Yes, there are LGBTQ plus characters in it, but I tried really, really hard not to vilify those characters, but to just show where God's lines are and how to deal with emotional turmoil in a way that is in line with what God wants, and hopefully in a way that shows that there's hope out there if you turn to Christ. And so, but this is my book, God Save the Children, and I am very proud of it. And so if you are like me and you are looking for a new story that is safe, that is not woke, then consider checking out this book. Also, definitely subscribe to my Substack, where my blog is. My blog is the newsletter. You can see all of the old posts, all of the old letters that I've sent out. You'll get new ones. If you don't want to go and support me in the book, at least support me by subscribing. I put out content every so often. The content comes up here first, as this post was from January, and I'm recording this in March. So the content comes here first. So if you want to be the first one to see what I'm posting, then you need to subscribe to my Substack. But anyway, I hope that you find good reads and that God blesses you. See you later.